Nancy, the American Music Festival, for those who may not be as intimately aware of it as us in the media and elected officials and candidates like yourself, the president of the college was sent packing with $1.5 million golden parachute. Right. The college spent a lot of money hiring a new president in the nationwide search, although very capable and a lot of potential. But the college was never made whole. More than $1 million was never repaid. Right. And the college had to raise tuition, shut down its TV program. There were a lot of things that they had to do that they don't like to talk about these days because they've moved on. Do you think that as a county council member that you would be have more of an oversight in terms of, I realize you don't have direct control of the college, but in terms of when they're asking for money, because there was some partnerships, wasn't there, Josh?
Yeah, there was an I Am Daytona campaign, which was a little separate. It didn't really relate. There was a marketing plan, but it was more through Daytona Beach.
But money that was supposed to be used to pay for the London Symphony Orchestra, for example, that the county had appropriated, ended up going in to try to make whole vendors that were going to lose their shirts on this.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing lost, and I don't think, and everyone talks about London Symphony Orchestra. I think that was going to be an issue down the road as well.
Right.
Those are the
attention.
Yeah, we all once that. He contributed so much money to that. And once that was lost, I mean, that was going to happen anyways.
The answer to your question before is no. The county would not have had a role in that particular part of the whole event because it was a college decision. The board was not as involved as they should have been. That was the failing, I believe, that led to the quote-unquote disaster. So that was really the college board's decision also to not pursue getting the money back. So
but there were
I
members,
don't want to step on their toes.
Well, but there were members of the county council, the county chair. There were people that were on a committee supposedly to try to recoup the monies, and it just didn't happen. It seemed like there was too much of a comfort zone of different levels of government. Would that be fair to say in this operation?
I don't know if it was comfort zone. I think you had some elected officials and some entities that tried to step up to salvage things because it did, things got a little messy and they were trying to figure out exactly, well, what happened? I mean, that was the first reaction, well what happened? Were these paid? Were these people paid? A lot of bills were coming up. So I think a lot of elected officials got together and said, okay, we think the London Symphony Orchestra is an important thing for our community. Let's try to figure out a way to get through this problem and try to fix it.
Was anything learned from this whole experience? Can it happen again?
Yeah, I think things can happen. I mean, just like directors of different organizations are going to be fired. I mean, things are going to happen. What you try to learn from is do you have a better plan? Do you vet it more? And that's when we discussed that earlier. But at some point, you are going to have to take risks. If you're not a risk taker, you're going to lay in your bed every day and never go outside. So you are going to have to make a decision. And sometimes bad things are going to happen, but you try to make the best decision at the time.
You buy that from the incumbent?
Well, yeah, things do go wrong occasionally. I mean, that's definitely true. I think just this particular plan, it was too big of a pie to really be doable. I think
it seemed like everybody was in on how great it was. The media, oh, we're going to have these big crowds, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It just turned into a complete disaster.
Well, once the ball was rolling and the snowball, it was hard to stop. And, a lot of people got hurt. It was sad. It's one of those situations at the end of the day, you sit there and go, okay, at the time, it was gorgeous for what was going on, but the aftermath of it was very difficult for a lot of people.
Before we get to closings, let's very, very briefly, no speeches, and you've been good about that. The budget. What separates, so far it seems like you two have more in common than not in common, except for some issues earlier. He says they cut $74 million. That sounds like great. I need to put this guy back in. Why are you running? Why are you running? What is that a true statement that he has cut $74 million?
It's a true statement that the county council voted to
but he's
cut 74. I understand that, but there is a difference between I having personally done something and the council as a whole with the support of the staff. And that's one difference that I have is that I always recognize that this is a team effort. Right. This is not something, I don't go in there and make all the differences. However, I can go in there and suggest changes that might lead to a cut. And that's my direction, that always has been. That's while I was mayor of Ponce Inlet. May I finish?
Sure, please.
While I was mayor of Ponce Inlet, our tax dollars went down by over 28%. So it isn't that I haven't ever worked on a council that did that. I don't make the claim that I did it. I know that there was town staff behind that brought a lot of
What is
those
the annual
cuts
budget
to
of
us.
Hunts when you were there?
Oh, it's, in dollars, it's much smaller, but percentages are
Well, what was
still
it
equal.
approximately?
At that time, it was about 4.5 million.
What's the annual budget of the county government?
With the general fund or just
Yeah,
overall?
general fund.
130 million.
How about the overall?
580 million.
Like Nancy says, it's apples and oranges because it's a small community versus a
But no,
large.
there's differences on how you look at a budget. I mean, Nancy, I can appreciate the fact that her council cut the budget, but at the same time, a lot of those, and I've looked at their budget was reduced because they had capital expenses that weren't reoccurring.
But it's tough.
You could go in there, any one of us could walk in and say, okay, and just inherit it.
Hold on a
But
second. But it's tougher for in Nancy's case because it's more affluent community and people want to have taxes lowered, but you have amenities that you have to give them in a community like Ponce Inlet, right?
Well,
Isn't
of course,
that
I mean,
difference?
we do have to support a lot of the parks things, so it's not that we don't have any responsibilities in
Right.
Ponce Inlet. However, obviously, some expenses were retired or whatever over the years, and that helps, but I'm sure the same thing happened at the county level. You're not still spending the same amount of money, obviously, so something had to have changed.
Well, I wanted to give Nancy the chance to
I
be
appreciate
fully
that.
vetted on that because I understand where you're coming from where, okay, now it's your turn. She says that it's a team effort, but individual, she would be more aggressively individually pushing for some cuts. Have you done that, or have you been just part of a yes vote?
Yeah, that's when we were talking earlier about being the media and being out front. You can elect people to get in that are just going to show up and they're going to be reactive. That's fine, and you're probably going to love them because they don't really do much to get upset with. Or you're going to have people that are very proactive, like me, who bring things, who talk about things, who ask a lot of questions, and who actually say, hey, here's an idea, have we considered this? Those people show up in the media a lot, and those people sometimes are going to really be out there, and you're going to get mad at them because, well, this is an issue that was out there out front of. So when someone says, yes, you're part of a team, of course, you need 4 votes. I mean, I get it. You're a part of a group. But if you want to elect someone that's going to go out there and keep doing things like me, like I've been proactive in doing these types of things, then that's what you want. I mean, if we want to have a bunch of reactive people, then go elect staff.
Okay.
Because that's all you're getting. But if you want someone to elect official,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I appreciate it.
30 seconds, and we're going to hold fast on this. Nancy, give us your top priority in a closing in 30 seconds.
Economic development, and I am an implementer. I don't want to just talk about that. This is a general plan. I actually have some ideas on how to bring together the economic development entities that we already have in the county with the higher education systems that we have, which we have 5 in this
Colleges,
area, yes. And they're all very focused on training the workforce. We need to make sure that the workforce that we're recruiting, or the businesses we're recruiting, are going to be able to use that workforce, because one of the things I hear from the manufacturing world in our area is that they have a real problem getting a trained workforce. And that's one of the focuses that I think will really work going forward.
30 seconds, no more, please.
I think it's, there's a lot of things. Economic development is obviously a huge deal, but part of economic development is having the tax base low. How are you going to lure a $15 million manufacturing facility to be built here if your tax rate's too high? It's the #1 thing you need to focus on, is keeping the taxes low. Now, there's a bunch of other things, and people are talking about jobs with economic development. I'm tired of hearing about jobs. We need careers. We need jobs for working families that can afford to pay their bills and provide. It's about careers, it's not just jobs. We need to focus on that. I'm tired of hearing jobs. When you hear it tonight in the debate, listen to what they're talking about. We don't need a bunch of $750 jobs. We need real careers, and that's a focus of mine for them. Continue to be a focus of mine for the next 4 years.
Well, with that said, we're out of time in terms of audience participation, but it looks like most of the audience for the third segment has run home to see the Libyan-Iranian debacle debate between the 2 presidential contenders. With that said, I want to thank Nancy Epps and Josh Wagner, candidates for Volusia County District 2.
And thank you everyone for listening in and participating and coming.
And before that, I would like to say thank you to City Manager Ken Parker, Mayor Alan Green, and the City Council. And remember that early voting begins Saturday, and it's important that everyone exercises their vote. These are the candidates. We're the media. This is Henry Frederick of Headline Surfer. You can check us out on headlinesurfer.com, and we have a bunch of debates we'll be running throughout the week. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Thank you, God bless.